Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today is July 26, 2023. It's my birthday, and I am so pleased. I am doing my job joy, exactly what I love to do on my birthday, teaching about and sharing about flying rainbow lasagna and associated concepts. So, hope that you will celebrate with me. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm having a great birthday already, and then after class, Cheeky and I will go out and do so. It's very, very hot here, so we have just been staying inside and keeping cool, but we will do something. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Fun and exciting later, and maybe whatever, buy some kind of small healthy treat to be able to eat. Okay, so let me pull up my notes. I always send out notes. Oh, and let me also make sure everybody gets admitted to the meeting. And also, I don't know if anybody's tuning in, they haven't heard or they're not updated or whatever on I'm walking on a treadmill now. Just I like to do that while I actually talk with class, and I'm actually finding it's like a lot better for my body and kind of helps me to like organize my thoughts. I didn't know how much it would feel better to me to be actually kind of like always constantly moving. So yeah, so that's what's going on with me. If you see like why is Aurora constantly moving? Because I'm definitely a waveform and I'm oscillating. So this is level 1, lesson 4, and originally I recorded this 10 years ago, and it's called Organic and Inorganic Life, organic and inorganic beings. But I want to be really, really, really clear when I talk about inorganic. I don't want you to think that it's something that is digital. And I don't want you to think that I'm condoning transhumanism. And I don't want you to think that I'm a champion for the lower astral or any poop crapolas that are in existence. All of those things, no, 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 endless, eternal no. All right, so let's define terms of what I'm even talking about when I say inorganic. I should say non-biological, that we are biological life. Oh, and you know what, before I get going, I love you all, but I'm going to mute you just for the sake of the recording. Wait, I have to press a button. Press a button and then mute all. There we go. It just helps a lot for when people catch the YouTube. And so yeah, welcome to everybody who's here today live, and then welcome to everybody who catches me in the archive on YouTube, and also podcast on YouTube has been doing very, very well and finding a great audience too. Welcome to everybody who is an auditory listener, and I'll try to describe things that I draw and share as well for anybody who's a auditory person following along. Inorganic, let's define terms. I really should say biological and non-biological life, because when I pull up one of my pictures here of the chakra system, and I'll pull this up, I've got this all prepared. So you see there is the human anthropomorphic form at the center of this picture. I don't know why I just made a weird thing. Okay, sometimes I struggle with technology. Guys, like, comfort me, I'm okay. All right. Human anthropomorphic form at the center of this image, which is kind of like an etching and a drawing that I did. And then these rainbow vortexes that are around the human shaped form. And that technically these all represent you. These all represent layers of your own being. So none of this is about, this is why I have to come up with so many self-protections and clarifications in what I share. None of this is about allowing something else that's not you to enter inside of you. Please have very, very, very strong energetic boundaries. Please have very, very, very strong genetic boundaries. Please have very strong boundaries and be incredibly selective about which thoughts you think, which thoughts you align with, and which thoughts you voluntarily allow to be conceived of inside of you. Literally, when we have a thought conception, it is like having a baby inside of you. And you want to have only certain thoughts, which again, when I go back to my teaching from 10 years ago, it seems rather adorable, like, oh, how adorable, like just choose the right thought forms, because like I openly admit we're in a different landscape now in terms of the capacity to choose your thought forms and what you want to have inside of you. Go back to my face, and what you don't want to have inside of you. So it's a real struggle right now. It's simplistic is what I'm trying to say. What I taught about 10 years ago, we lived in a simpler time when yes, all you had to do is make good choices. It's like, imagine that you're at a gathering and you're trying to be healthy and conscious about your food intake, and all you have to do is make good choices. Like, okay, like I'm going to eat some salad, or I'm going to eat some, positive fruits or vegetables or something like that. And imagine that it's, your choice to kind of avoid the desserts and avoid the chocolates and cheesecakes, all right? But in this time place, you're not having a choice. In this time place, you're like, I'm going to eat the healthy fruits and vegetables while I make my SpongeBob face. And something is literally like forcing cheesecake into your face. Cake in the face. Cake in the face. And that is what is going on with the millimeter wave. What I, you use selective language in order to be able to continue to share on YouTube. But the millimeter wave that is a carrier, it's not merely a telecommunications system, it is a carrier wave for a whole level of thought forms that are malevolent, non-life-giving, and it is largely non-consensual to be exposed to them. That's the big point. That's the cheesecake to your face that you don't really want to be getting in there. It's a assault on your pineal gland. These are errant signals that should not be coming in there. So what should be a simple choice in the real school of attainment, for lack of a better way of saying it, now becomes a huge struggle, or even something that feels militaristic or like martial arts in some way. And so you have to be kind of a fighter to, instead of just like an artist or choosing or expressing yourself in freedom, you have to kind of fight in order to make these choices. So first I have to continue to define inorganic, because I said all the things it's not. It's not a digital presence, and it's not lower poop of the lower astral. But inorganic means non-biological, so it could be considered something that is purely energy, or something that is purely spirit, or non-tangible. So you are biological life, but you have many, many aspects of self that are non-tangible and are very, very positive. And the point of the whole teaching from 10 years ago is that they are thought forms, coherent, long-lasting, non-arbitrary thought forms that are a part of you. So your chakras are a part of you. Your chakras are thought forms. Thought forms are more than arbitrary meaninglessnesses or little random particles flying around in the world. Thought forms have structure, like they are polygons that have they last because they have a structural integrity. They have a structural integrity to them. And these non-arbitrary, life-giving polygons, that's your chakra system. That is literally the energy field that surrounds your biological life form. And the big takeaway and emphasis of today is that you're in partnership with that level of being. It's you, but it's you as the wiser, faster version of you in the future, kind of like moving at light speed. And you both have the same goals, or all of you has the same goals, which is staying alive. You can sing that song by the Bee Gees if you want to. You all have the same goals. You want your biological body form to stay alive. You want the light form that is your energy centers, or are your energy centers, to stay alive, meaning remain coherent and continue to whirl and swirl and kind of move and roll forward through time. You want all of that to keep going. So there's a beautiful partnership that is happening between biological aspect of self and non-biological aspect of self. And that your non-biological aspect of self, that you could say has like graduated from matter and the material world, or from the gestation in the material world, is incredibly wise, incredibly loving, and very, very heavily invested in your success as an organism to be able to reach your attainment, because your success is the success of your chakras, who are individuals but also like a larger entity. So it's like individuals but a group. So the language is very challenging as to how to accurately describe that. But just as you have individuated organs within your biological body, but your liver doesn't exist independently of the entirety of who you are, same thing with all of your chakras. Your chakras exist as a holistic presence, and also they have discreteness in terms of what your anatomy is, but that they are all interdependent and mesh together and affect one another, much like gears. So think of them definitely as these type of gears or water wheels that have a meaning and a coherence in the way that they fit together. Inorganic means something that is not tangible or biological, tangible to the five senses, or biological in the sense of having somatic cellular life, but I would still define it as divine. I would still define it as naturally occurring, meaning non-technological. And I would also say that it supersedes any kind of artificial reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, or even when I talk about digital, most people think that I mean something on a computer screen, but digital can also be the definition of numbers and numerics. Numbers are digits. And the digital world is technically a world of numbers, and that can be a place also that contains some level of thought presence or narrative story or individuation, but your chakras even supersede that. Your chakras literally are energy centers that exist as time beings in time. And time supersedes a computer. Time supersedes a hard drive. Time supersedes the realm of digital numeracy. It is transcendent. It is a living apparatus, for lack of a better word, a living presence. Time is a living presence that has structure to it, and your chakras are organelles within the larger structure of time. And everything that you want to do is to keep moving through time. So you have, again, a goal and a partnership between yourself as a biological somatic aspect of your being. That's mostly whom you're identifying with as like me, I'm me, like I'm me, and this is my hair, and this is my dress, and these are my shoes. But you're also me. You're also me. I'm this energy field. That's also you. But it's you moving at a faster rate and actually coming from the future. And that energy field doesn't exist in a contextless void. It actually connects with everybody else's energy field. And then you start to be like, wait a minute, that's unity consciousness. Yes, that's unity consciousness. So I also laugh gently at myself and my teachings of the past 10 years, because here's what I want to start with. This is a direct quote from the lesson that I was rewatching just a moment ago. Harming or disturbing the DNA of organisms is a way to control them. That's big stuff. Harming or disturbing the DNA of organisms is a way to control them. So let's go through this. Your DNA is a bridge of light that connects what is happening in the physical material realm and the cellular definition of your body with the realm of pure potential, time field, and all that is not only a non-physical energy presence, but represents like the possibilities and the stories of the future. All right. So your thoughts and your emotions absolutely affect your DNA, and I'll put down my little crystals while your DNA's behavior, because your DNA is constantly dancing, whirling, swirling, splicing, unsplicing, do-si-doing, twisting itself around, crocheting itself, uncrocheting itself, doing exciting backbends, doing all sorts of things. That is like a propulsion through time that really like causes you to kind of like gush forward and move forward and move forward. So your thoughts and your emotions affect the behavior of your DNA. And also, the thoughts that you choose to think have a direct impact on which timelines you align with. So now I'm going over to this image. Actually was planning on sharing this last week at a different time. Wait, get the annotation. I don't get the annotation and everything's done. All right, we got it, guys. Okay, all right. Hold on one moment, and I might also just drink a little bit of water because it's 10,000 degrees outside today. This picture itself, it's like a little sketch from an old sketchbook, but I use it a lot because it's got this very, very good emphasis here of the way that your brain, midbrain, and pineal gland structure interact with the energy fields that are defined as your brow chakra or indigo chakra or Christ-centered chakra and your crown. So you have at the center of your brain, in this midbrain area between the two lobes, pineal gland, and that is literally your inner eye. That is an aperture that is meant for eating light. It's meant for eating time. And now I'm making dots as if like these dots are kind of like in front of you, kind of like that old video game Pac-Man. I don't really know video games, guys. I've never really played video games, but I know Pac-Man. It's my one that I'm familiar with. And Pac-Man like eats the white dots in front of him. And you imagine that these are like these little discrete moments in time, and that when your eye of time is aligned with those moments, you're literally eating those moments. So you're eating moments and you're eating thought forms, and that literally defines what your experience is going to be. I'm just trying to go back to my face. I'm pressing a button, but it's not working yet. There we go. So you have your inner eye, have your, your tendril of attention, but you can also think of this as like an opening, a tunnel. And through that tunnel, that is where you just like food goes in here. Like that's like the SpongeBob face. Food goes in here. Time and light goes in here. And you are literally eating thought forms. And the thought forms that you eat and that you consume are that which will define your flight through time and the quality of your existence. Therefore, if you want to have a healthy body, go to the party and eat healthy fruits and vegetables. If you want to have a healthy life and you want to have a coherent physical body and a coherent light body and be eternal and reach spiritual attainment, hey, just eat healthy thoughts, right? Very simplistic, very reductionist. Except if you live in a world where there's millimeter waves and you've got poop crapola undesirably beaming at your mind, and it can make it very, very difficult to only eat the good, healthy thoughts that you want to eat. So that's my, not self-criticism, but refinement of teaching from 10 years ago. I really did not have a way to be able to expect, and I'm like, we're in definitely through the looking glass, people. We're in like uncharted territory of what happens when they start putting these errant thought forms around as like pineal gland pollution. We live in a world where there's a ton of pineal gland pollution, and it's not that easy to just simply not eat the bad thought forms. So you have to really make a concerted effort to align with certain thoughts and to align with certain timelines and not to ingest other thoughts. So here's big. Gonna read this again. Oops. Harming or disturbing the DNA of organisms is a way to control them. We've had a lot of DNA disturbance over the past 2 years in the form of subcutaneous pollutions that many human beings have submitted to or been exposed to in the world. And that is absolutely about controlling DNA and controlling their flight through time. So these are about efforts to subvert the natural behavior of planetary ascension. I usually point to the painting behind me on the wall, but today I'm pointing to it on my favorite dress, Planetary Ascension. The ongoing events and experiences that are about individual and collective spiritual attainment. So if you're like, hey kid, nice spiritual attainment you got going on, there would be a real shame if something happened to it, right? Like one of those types of veiled threats. That's what's going on here. Real nice ascension that's going on where people are consciously making choices about the time, potentials that they ingest or perceive with their inner eye. And then it's like, oh, you're all looking so healthy and so fit and making such great choices at the banquet of life. How about cheesecake to the face? And then you won't be looking and feeling so healthy anymore. That's pretty much what's been going on for the past 2 years. So you've got millimeter waves that are beaming at you through ostensible telecommunication networks. And you've also got the influence, direct influence of those whom have been subcutaneously, lollipopped. And then you've also got the emanations that the lollipop eaters and ingesters emanate from themselves in terms of distorted DNA. It's not very pleasant to recognize that, because it's like, so this is part of my teaching from 10 years ago, that I teach about not going into like that's wrong radio and the judgment of others. Because ordinarily, if someone else is doing something that I don't approve of, instead of expending an enormous amount of my own inner mental energy at thinking like, that guy really should be eating better, and he should be doing more exercise, and he should be living like this and doing this and that and doing this like me, instead of doing that, to just be like, wow, that guy's not doing things that I approve of. Good luck on your journey. You got to do that in order to learn and grow. And if you're really doing something harmful or self-destructive, do it far away from me. All right? And that would be the equivalent of like some guy, whatever, wants to shoot up heroin or smoke crack or whatever it is that is hugely self-destructive and socially destructive and undesirable activity. But you know something? Smoking the crack rock is actually less disruptive to the community and to other organisms around you than getting subcutaneous pollutions that affect your DNA, because the subcutaneous pollutions absolutely affect DNA. And big takeaway from today's sharing, DNA is holistic. It is not discrete. There is no way for you to be like, well, I'm just doing what I want to do with my DNA and I'm not affecting anyone else, but blah, 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 blah. That, it actually doesn't work that way, because DNA is an antenna that is both a sender and a receiver. So when you do something with your DNA, when you do anything with your DNA, if you create a thought form or if you create an emotional experience, whatever you are sending out, you're affecting every other DNA bearing organism, all plants, all animals, and not just in this locality. That means far away from where you are. So if you're in the United States, what you do with your DNA is absolutely affecting people in Russia or Australia, and also not just in terms of time. If this is, what time is it? 2:24 on July 26th. You're like, I'm doing my DNA, blah, 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 and you're affecting not just the other people that are also on Earth at 2:24 on July 26th, you're affecting deep antiquity, thousands of years ago, future possibilities, and parallel timelines. That is what it means to say that DNA is a holistic presence. It is an incredibly complex and amazing and valuable structure or aspect of consciousness, miracle in the cosmos. It is something that should be cherished and valued as much as a Fabergé egg or any other thing that is a masterpiece, an accomplishment, something that is beautiful and amazing. The complexities of what it does just within one organism are amazing, and the way that multiple organisms work together are also amazing, and the way that it all fits together in the larger time presence is astounding, and probably even beyond conception, because it's just like, whoa, just too big. At a certain point, too big, and the human mind even just turns off at the grandeur of what is going on. But we're talking about something that is enormous, an enormous calculative presence across time and across dimensionality, because this also relates to, wait, let me grab my sculpture. I'm excited because I'm also working on new versions of the torus that I can display things with to you, making new art projects here. Multiple timelines, multiple incarnations, multiple parallel realities. Your chakras, which are time presence beings and aspects of yourself, that's what that shape is, represents the complexity of time, the complexity of multidimensional truthfulness, not just one timeline in a linear sense, but many multiple timelines. And then when you get into flying rainbow lasagna, what you're really getting into is reweaving all of those linear timelines into nonlinear, exciting, new patternings. Hold on, drinking a bit of water here. So what's been happening with the influencing, pollution, and harming of DNA and DNA behavior in this world and in this time place? It's not just about this time place. Big stuff. Because what you do now, the song that you sing with your DNA now, affects everyone everywhere, across time and across dimensionality. So distortions and distressings and dilutions and changing the story that DNA tells in this generation of humanity, in this time place, has a big impact on DNA everywhere. There's DNA everywhere, and DNA is not just on this planet. Like, I don't know if anybody's an objective materialist in my class. I love you if you are, but also you got to recognize that just DNA is not something that is only special to this particular biological realm. DNA is a cosmic presence that is active and exists in many, many, many different time places. So yeah, it's big, big, big stuff that you're not just polluting one little area, you're polluting something big. And so that also, you have to recognize that that something big has a large force field of protection around it, because it's like, oh no, you can't just again, like if you want to smoke the crack rock, that's you and your life. Like go ruin your own life, go in the gutter, but don't involve me, right? But this is very, very different, because that's not actually okay. It's not actually okay for an organism to destroy or pollute their DNA, or allow it to be destroyed or polluted, and then have it diminish or harm the activity and purity of the entire DNA code. That's really, really not okay. So big distinction in my teaching from 10 years ago. You can't, at a certain point, just say about your neighbor or other aspects of participants in your society, oh, well, I disagree with what you're doing, but like you live your life in freedom. Good luck to you, and go, destroy yourself in the gutter, whatever you want to do. You can't do that. Can't do that, because it directly affects you and then indirectly affects all of these futures and parallel realities. Makes a big, big, big mess. So yeah, at a certain point you must set a boundary, and you must say, I do not allow that guy over there to make a harmful choice that's going to harm me and future generations and parallel timelines. And the agenda behind the creation of the genetic pollution lollipops is beyond, it's just the most harmful agenda you could possibly imagine. It relates absolutely to this quote from 10 years ago. Harming or disturbing the DNA of organisms is a way to control them. That's it. It's talking about mind and behavioral control. So it's not even bad enough to say someone's going to force cheesecake in front of your face and force certain thoughts into your mind, or force certain patternings into your DNA or its behavior. All of that is done in order to limit and control what you can perceive and what you can do. It's diminishment of your willpower. And so this is a fractal microcosm of what happened in what is known as the fall, or the end of the civilization known as Atlantis. But it's not the end, it's happening concurrently. But let's say the challenges being faced by the inhabitants of ancient/concurrent Atlantis, which includes you, because you're all there at the same time too. And then you're all here in this fractal microcosm where something similar is happening. And that if something malevolent is able to influence DNA, it is able to influence event structures. And then you start to see how this is something big across time. So we're not just even talking about something that is influencing your protein structures. Like whether you have brown hair or brown eyes, that's its own very simple thing. And we're not talking about genetic modifications to make you have purple hair or purple eyes. That's a very simple thing. We're talking about something that would change what you can perceive, literally change what timeline you're on. So here in my drawing, I talked about like you have little, like Pac-Man, little like packets of thought that you chomp, 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 chomp. I eat them with my third eye and I go down that timeline. If someone puts negative packets of thought in front of you and you chomp, chomp, chomp those thoughts, you have a diminished existence and time becomes distorted. Events don't happen the way they're supposed to happen, and events are all interconnected. So your chakra system is all interconnected, meaning that your physicality presence is the foundation and the balance for your emotional presence, and your thought structure of your intellect balances upon all of that, and your unconditional love and acceptance balances upon all of that, and then everything that's your higher self or your higher faculties, truth, insight, and higher divine connection, all balance upon that. And it's integrative and holistic. And if you imbalance one thing, then you imbalance all of it in exactly that same way. Like there is not a way to have a discrete imbalancing of time. Like you got one guy smoking crack, then that would be one life that is being disrupted. But if you have one guy genetically polluting himself, that's like, oh, everything gets wildly distorted and wildly out of balance. So what happened in ancient Atlantis was the erection of an artificial Merkaba system, or like an artificial millimeter wave system that was profoundly inhibitory of free thinking, that you couldn't even think the thought, I am a slave, or I can't think my own thoughts. No one could have that much thought freedom. And it was such a diminishment of free thought that it destabilized our whole entire planet, because your thought structures are part of what sustain and maintain the health of the planet. So it's a great way to destroy a planet. So it didn't destroy our planet, or because again, time language, but ongoing, concurrent, it destabilized our planet. it destabilized the human genome, and it made humans diminished. So that was a larger, ancient, or concurrent fractal microcosm, or macrocosm rather, of the event of take over and pollute DNA leads to take over and pollute and limit the timelines you can be on. And planetary ascension has everything to do with achieving optimum timelines. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance has everything to do with rectification and getting yourself and your entire community and ecosystem, your biosphere, on timelines that are these rectifications and healing and realignment with DNA, divine consciousness timelines. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, as we go through the semester and as you learn more about it, it is a dance of restructuring your DNA that puts you back onto these optimum timelines, that you've been off of these optimum timelines because of an ancient or concurrent disruption and destruction of your DNA behavior. And then also there's been a modern equivalent to it too. What happened within the past 3 years with these subcutaneous pollutions that has been putting our entire collective off track. So again, I just keep on emphasizing this. If one person decides to go into addiction, sorry to be so pat about talking about smoking crack rock, because if people are in addiction, I want to be sensitive and compassionate to you, not throw you out the window. But I am lighthearted sometimes about these deep topics and how I talk about them. But if one person goes into addiction or self-destruction, that's a better way of putting it, it affects community, but not as deeply as if a person goes into self-destruction in harming their DNA. Yeah, because you are very, very much connected on the level of DNA. And your energy field, as you have a time body around your physicality body, or a subtle body made of time, that is what your chakras are, is also connected to all these other people's chakras. So if they are wildly gyrating out of control from their chakras being very imbalanced, due to whatever type of invaders or hijackers or hangers-on or Klingons might be in their interstices, it affects you. Like, you know, as much as if someone was standing shoulder to shoulder with you and they were jostling you, someone else is jostling your chakras in time. If they are disrupted, and if they are not steady in the choices that they make about which timelines and thoughts they ingest, they affect time. They perturb you. Their perturbations perturb you. Big, 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 big stuff. Let me just drink a little bit of water. And let me just get a little bit more ready here. Beautiful structured water. Structure your water, everyone. Do it. It's part of restabilizing yourself as you go through time. Okay, so let me get to my notes. Chakras are living light beings. They are coherent light forms. It's literally your coherent family of life. And your chakras interact with you as the organic life form. That means that those are the thought forms that you wish to talk with, think with, or be influenced by. You do not want to be influenced by poop crapola that comes in the form of millimeter waves or riding on a millimeter wave. But you do want to be influenced by your highest, wisest self from the future. That's like, hey, do this, don't do this, go in this direction, don't go in this direction, or even feel this, or even here is cosmic truth. That's what most of my conversations with or in perceiving and interacting with my chakras, mostly what I experience are things like, here's the perspective of cosmic truth. It's not even something as simple as turn left or turn right at that stop sign or do something like that. It is more a sense of guidance in terms of cosmogenesis and perspective. Here is cosmic truth, and that is literally it's worldview. It's one of the most profound things you can do. Like when you're a parent or a babysitter, and you influence a young mind, you influence them in terms of their worldview. So if you tell a little child, yes, the world is shaped like a turtle, and we are perched on 4 pillars shaped like elephants, then that will create that worldview. If you tell a child like, oh, the Big Bang created the world and nucleogenesis happens inside of stars and that's where elements are born, then that will influence their worldview, right? So, and the direction that that life takes. And so for your chakras and the consciousnesses that are benevolent, that are at that level of perspective, they're in the exalted perspective. The best thing that they can do is even more than practical guidance of like, turn left or turn right at the stop sign, or, you know, buy this or that at the store. Like, no, not that orange, buy that orange. Like, that's, you know, like, that's good guidance. But really, the greatest guidance that you can receive is guidance about worldview and what is truthful in the worldview. Those are truths. Light is information. Coherent light family. Those are truths and light and information and data that you want to be in alignment and ingest. And that's ingesting yourself. You're literally being sustained by the truth of the emanation of yourself. And this even relates to the sun and the stars and optical light, all of which is self-sustaining self. But the stuff that is the non-sustaining stuff, that's millimeter wave and poop crapola, that stuff doesn't emanate from stars. That is not star stuff. That those are errant signals that are they're not your coherent light family. They're incoherence. They're the definition of incoherence. And I struggle to even define them as light, because that it's not light. Light by definition is intelligence and data and orderliness and sentience. And the stuff that we struggle against in this moment now is not in any way intelligent or orderly or filled with information or filled with sentience. It is really, and it's not darkness, which is, there's a sacredness to darkness, which is ignorance, which is that which has not been illuminated or known or experienced yet. So it's not just ignorance or the lack of light, which is the definition of what true shadow is. Don't make me rant about shadow work, guys. I've already done it. It's my birthday. Don't make me rant. Ignorance and darkness is not the same as the distortions of non-informative information. That's what false light is. That's why. But you're like, wait, Aurora, non-informative information, that's like an oxymoron. I'm like, exactly. It doesn't make sense. Non-informative information, how can you have that? That's literally what has been assaulting humanity for the past several years, what's been injected into some people, and then what's been emanated from those people as a result of their injections. So back to finer times in my notes from 10 years ago. Your bio bodysuit, it has metabolism and it maintains homeostasis and it consumes and sends out energy. Energy in, energy out. And it's most commonly recognized as life by the humans of here and now, because you're like, I have a face and you have a face, and that's something that is alive. What I call the inorganic realm in my notes from 10 years ago is a realm of intangibility. And so light is it is optical. Yes, we can perceive it with our five senses. Information that is non-optical light, or just the the mind presence of the sun and of the highest dimensional truthfulness, is intangible. Like, you can't weigh it on a scale. You don't feel it and sense it with your tactile sense. But there is something tangible that does come from the sun and the stars. But I'm talking about because when I say inorganic light, or inorganic life, I don't want you to think that I'm talking about a computerized presence, or anything that's in a virtual reality, or anything that's in a digital world, or anything that's held on a hard drive, or, big emphasis here, nothing in the lower astral. The lower astral is definitely the poop crapola realm of thought forms. So because that's a realm of arbitrary thought forms that have no polygonal structure and do not fit together and do not stick together well. And that's why they're kind of stuck there. Like, they can't get out of that zone because they are not shaped right. In contrast, your chakras are shaped perfectly, and they can go where they are meant to go in the realm of time, space, and consciousness, because they are shaped properly and they are coherent. That's what you want to be in alignment with. So those beings of pure light and that realm, it's a place of pure energy and pure thoughts. But these thoughts are not arbitrary thoughts. They're very specific thoughts, and they are divine. They are not arbitrary, because a lot of people here think, la la la, my thoughts are blah blah blah. I can think whatever I want, it doesn't matter. No, your thoughts actually matter a lot. And your thoughts can be represented as a polygonal structure within your neurological presence. Like, your neurological impulses are not merely linear. They are three-dimensional and higher dimensional in the forms that they make. I shared some of that in those Solari videos about mapping the brain. I'm not very much an advocate of Project Blue Brain at all, but what was interesting was the recognition from the human scientific realm of the sense of your neurons, when they light up or make connections, creating polygonal structures. That could be like, it could be a dodecahedron, or it could be a triangle, or it could be a flying rainbow lasagna. It could be all these different amazing forms, formfulness. That's what a thought actually is. So you might think a thought that says, like, the dog got in the car, and it seems to you like a verbalized linear sentence. But that thought is actually represented by an actual shape of neurological activity in your brain. And science is just becoming sophisticated enough to be able to model those shapes in real time. Similarly, like an intention or a decision-making process that happens is a polygonal shape. I'm going to go deep now. Those decision-making processes don't just involve the neurological structures here in your skull, which is mostly what human science defines and wants you to think of as thought and the origin of thought and the seat of consciousness. Those decision-making processes also include every single one of your somatic cells and cell membranes. So that's the membrane that is the outer covering of every cell, your nuclear membranes, which is where it contains the DNA inside of your nuclear membranes, and also mitochondrial membranes. Mitochondrial membranes being subcellular organelles where an amazing thing happens that is called electron transport, where basically the electrons that are present in the physical foods that you ate are being transformed into accessible energy, almost like a battery. And the stuff that happens at those membranes is almost subatomic. It's so tiny that it's happening on the level of specific protons or specific electrons, but not quite the realm of pure quantum indeterminacy yet, but it's so tiny, it's working with these very tiny atomic particles. And also, please remember that an electron is really a probability field. So you eat probability fields. Like, I just ate a nice plate of probability fields before I got going on class here today, and now my body is utilizing those probability fields at this very tiny microscopic level of the convoluted membranes that are inside of and surrounding my mitochondria to be able to make it possible for me to walk on a treadmill and walk and talk and do stuff. I'm metabolizing with all these things. I'm metabolizing probability fields. But please comprehend that your thought processes and your decision-making processes are also polygonal structures that happen throughout the trillions of cells and cell membranes of your body. And same thing with flying rainbow lasagna. The dance of your flying rainbow lasagna is a thought form structure. It doesn't just happen in the neurology of your brain up here or up and down your spine or in your nervous system. It happens across cell membranes. And it happens in cell-to-cell communication. So the levels of complexity, let's play some music. Nothing's on. Play it a little louder. The complexity of music. The complexity of music that can happen, like this is how many notes? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 notes. But imagine 4 notes and all the combinations that can happen in 4 trillion cells and all of their cell membranes. Incredibly complex polygons and connectivity can happen across all of those cell membranes. And what do I mean by thought structures and decision-making processes that are happening throughout? It's basically your body is a computational miracle that most people don't even recognize because they're just not consciously aware of what's happening. But like, you eat an orange, or you eat a hamburger, or whatever it is, and then your body performs a computational miracle that has to do with the way that all of the cells are communicating with one another and utilizing and digesting what you have experienced, and it affects your flight through time. So you're a node on a giant computational supercomputer, and then the flying rainbow lasagna is the next step up from that in terms of non-linearity. So when I talk about this, what I'm really saying is your body is not this objective materialist quote-unquote meat suit where nothing very much of interest is happening. Your body is a place where miracles happen. Your body is a place where it is the physical, material platform or stage within which all of these amazing processes and energy vectors happen. All of this energy is moving through your physicality structure, and it makes these complex patterns, and these complex patterns are also defined as consciousness, decision making. So when I talk about a decision, like if you make a decision, will I turn left or will I turn right at the stop sign, that is something that's first of all a timeline. Which timeline are you choosing? But it also involves the calculations that are happening in terms of cell-to-cell communication, hormone uptake, metabolism, and electron transport across all the trillions of cells of your body. It's not a simple decision at all. So you can map a polygon in a person's brain, like, will I turn left or will I turn right? But that's not even the end of the story. You'd have to map every single cell membrane in your body and what it's doing in that moment of either turning to the left or turning to the right. And that's just one example of a decision-making node or cusp that happens throughout your day. You have a million cusps, million plus. You have a million cusps before you even wake up and have breakfast. You're making all of these decisions. And so the idea from my notes from 10 years ago is that when you sleep at night, that is really when you get your batteries recharged in terms of your chakras. Of course, in this time place, I have noticed a ton of sleep disturbance and a ton of negative implantation of false thought forms that happen in the moments of non-consciousness. Like, oh, like I'm just going to go to sleep and close my eyes, and then it's like time to pour garbage into the pineal gland. I'm like, no, I don't want garbage in my pineal gland. So wake up with all of these nonsense thoughts that shouldn't be in there. But in finer times and in a pristine world, the time when you go to sleep is a time when you reconnect to divinity, not poop crapola waves from millimeter waves. So you let your conscious mind go into a restful state, and then you achieve your supra-conscious mind, which is your divinely connected mind, that kind of gives you a re-up. It's like, here's all of the energy you need, and here's all of the love that you need. And if any of your chakras are slightly askew or majorly askew, let's just get everybody back into balance. And so I'm holding my chakra shape back into its like vertically oriented form. And that's just not one chakra, but all of your chakras. So when I share my pictures with you, or if you look at what's printed on my dress, these are like idealized forms where all the chakras are perfectly vertical. But of course, many things happen in order to create perturbations, and then the chakras aren't perfectly vertical. And this creates friction within the system, and then it becomes a non-perpetual motion machine because the system loses energy. And then you go to sleep, God nudges all of your chakras back into the right format in a pristine system, and you wake up and you're like, I'm feeling so great. Now I'm full of energy and I'm ready to start my day. However, for many people, as soon as they wake up in the morning, let's say you're a 100% or 100 units of energy. And for many people, as soon as you wake up in the morning, it's like, I wake up and take my first thought of the day, and then all of a sudden like, nope, now you're down to 95. Nope, now you're down to 89. Nope, now you're down to 17. And then you're like 5% of your energy. You're like, haven't even gotten up and put on my bathrobe yet. 5% of your energy. Because a lot of people have anxiety, disruptive, non-coherent thought forms, and also non-coherent emotions. So let me go back to this picture over here, because the picture's worth 1,000 words. It really says a lot about the connection between your mind and your intellect. Your intellect and your emotions. Right over here. See where I'm making that blue squiggle? That is where the edge of your yellow chakra connects to the edge of your orange chakra. And what this means is that if you have a destabilization in your emotional realm, it's going to destabilize your thoughts. And if you have a destabilization in your thought realm, it's going to destabilize your emotions. And they're both going to wibble wobble wildly out of control, and energy will go out the window. Siphon off, go out the window. Imagine having like leaky windows and either your heat or your air conditioning does not stay where it's supposed to stay. Or whatever, someone's hacking your bank account. I think that's a good analogy also, because you have your divine bank account, and that's when all of your chakras are running. That's like the happy sound of chakras kind of like buzzing along through time. and you're at 100% of your energetic bank account. But let's say, like, whatever, someone stole your debit card number, hackers got your number, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I thought I had $100 and now I've only got $17. Like, where did all of that money go? The answer is hackers. And so in your chakra system, hackers would be equivalent of emotional destabilization and non-desired thought forms and non-desired thought structures. So I'm very, very compassionate. I know that many people wake up in the morning not feeling 100%, or they might feel 100%, and then before they even open their eyes, it's like down to 17%, because they've got emotional destabilization. It could be in the form of depression or anxiety or residual traumas or whatever destabilization, like wild wibble wobbling that is not the equivalent of perfect 90-degree angles. And then people don't want to get up, they don't want to get out of bed, they don't want to face the day. So also we have to recognize that the activity of sleep at night right now is being disrupted by the millimeter waves as well, and that sometimes people don't even get their full regenerative, restorative sleep and rebalancing of their chakra system as they should when they sleep at night. So you might not even be getting your re-ups, and you might not even be waking up with 100% of what you should be waking up with in the morning. So you're like, Aurora, I'm melting. This is not a very good thing. I know, it's not a very good thing. It's a very, very challenging and fraught circumstance that we're in right now. So, of course, I will speak to that, but I'm not going to just be like, la, 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 blithely idiotic, and talk to you as if it's 10 years ago. And when I was talking about this 10 years ago, I wasn't an idiot either. I wasn't an idiot then. We lived in a simpler time. They had not yet erected the millimeter wave disruptive technology, and the DNA disruptive injections hadn't happened. So all that you were dealing with was your ancestral disruptions and the usual garden variety cultural disruptions, which was, again, like a 25-pound weight, and that was hard enough to lift at the gym of spiritual attainment of that time. But now you've got like the 100-pound, whatever it is, barbell, where you're like, this is really hard. Just getting out of bed in the morning. This is really hard. I got out of bed. Yes. So please applaud yourself for getting out of bed this morning and every morning. Applaud yourself for the positive efforts that you are making in your spiritual attainment in spite of the poop crapola, diminishment of divine connection, and distortion of time and distortion of your experience of time. And what is the solution? As always, flying rainbow lasagna is the solution. And so, where's my lasagna? Because I was talking with someone about it, so I stuck it somewhere. I'm just looking around my studio for a moment. I don't have my usual lasagna, but this is OG. This is my original lasagna, that the very, very first one that I ever made. So, as always, the solution and response is going to be flying rainbow lasagna. But there are many, many different ways that you can do this. It's just it's just like a piano. You can use the piano in many different ways. You can play many different songs. You can use it for different styles of music. So the flying rainbow lasagna is a genetic behavior and a tool that can be applied to this situation in terms of how to transcend the poop crapola millimeter waves, how to remove its influence from your body, as I spoke about in last week's class, the jiggling of your fatty membranes, and how that jiggles protein structures, and how that jiggles your nuclear membranes, and how that affects your DNA. Flying rainbow lasagna can be used as a rectification tool in order to overcome all of that. And I also talked last week about the necessity of structured water, as structured water surrounds your DNA. So this is all about light. Your chakras are your coherent family of light. The stuff that's 5G is, anti-light light. It's not even light, whatever it is, millimeter wave. Water contains light. Water contains information. It is an envelope that surrounds your DNA, which is a bridge of light between your somatic cellular self and your intangible body of pure time. And when your water is structured and it contains a good amount of intelligence and information and data, then it is bonded to it through hydrogen bonds. Your DNA and it affects your DNA. So the water that surrounds your DNA informs the activity of your DNA, gives information to your flight through time, informs and structures time. Drink structured water, your DNA will be bathed in divine intelligence, and your flight through time will be positively influenced by that divine intelligence. Flying rainbow lasagna, in its purest sense, is the ability or capacity to restructure your DNA and rewrite time events, editing out or turning down the influence of things that would be considered non-coherent and non-longevity based, and continuing and exacerbating those thought forms and life experiences that keep you alive and bring you towards eternity. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna also exists as a way of restructuring your present genetically modified limited body. That's its, I would say, original purpose of why I created it and came here in order to exemplify it to you. Your body has a pristine architecture that is the natural behavior of what your DNA is supposed to be doing. Then you have the weird dance that your DNA has been doing after humans have been genetically modified for a very, a huge number of times by different agendae and different species or entities or influencers. And then all the different things, many multiple different things, have prevented the pristine architecture of your DNA from exhibiting itself. So what humans in this time place would consider to be dormancies or unexplored potentials. And those unexplored potentials include things that would be considered superhuman powers, like telepathy, telekinesis, profound healing capacities, the capacity, all these time things that I tell you about, the capacity to see time directly, seeing and sensing the future, being able to affect the future directly with your mind. All of those things are not going to be dormant any longer. As you Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and as you and many others are able to do that, what you can do is reawaken those dormant potentials. And this happens, people are calling it light codes, or a reconnection with the information that comes from the sun and the stars. Really, Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a bridge to that reawakening. So the big takeaway is all of Ruby Slippers, Flying Rainbow, the potentials that we talk about here for longevity and living forever and profound healing and regeneration, those exist within you. Those exist as potentials within your DNA code. Then you have a lot of extra stuff slapped on top of it, genetic modifications, and also cultural paradigms. And also thought structures and ways that you've been taught to think about what is possible in your body and what is possible in the world. Those things are like cultural paradigms, like stickers that have been slapped on top of you, or surface level veneers that have been placed on there. And what Flying Rainbow Lasagna does is it gives you the tool to be able to return to factory settings, divine factory settings, the way that you were divinely created to exist and to, I want to say, move, or like your locomotion through time, your experience or your interrelationship with time. So you were meant to contain time and be submerged in time and to emanate time, and the Flying Rainbow Lasagna allows you to rearrange yourself so that you reactivate those propensities and re-engage in those activities. That's, exactly what it is. So you have a lot of good stuff inside of you. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna reminds you of, or allows you to reopen the recipe book and be like, wait, like, all of these pages were stuck together, but here's the recipe for how to be a superhuman. Yes. So that superhuman capacitation exists within you. It has been artificially blockaded, or you've been prevented from accessing it and expressing it. And the Flying Rainbow Lasagna gives you the capacity to supersede any blocks and return to the full expression of that true genetic heritage. And that's like, class is over, everyone. That's it. That's the main crux of everything that I talk about here. But class is not over. Please don't go anywhere. I will drink a little bit of water and continue with my notes. Okay. Thoughts are consciousness that exist at large. I often speak about thoughts as being little tiny particles like neutrinos that kind of whiz through your brain as a fatty idea catcher, and they leave behind them a wake. Just like, if you dive into a pool, it leaves a perturbation or a wake behind you. And that is one way that you can think about thoughts, but you can also think about thoughts as a waveform or a sea of potentials, which is more accurate because that's what the fifth dimension and higher is. Sea of waveform potentials. And we are embedded within living thought energy. So you're not really in a space-time continuum. You're really embedded within a continuum of thought energy. And this is the type of light that comes from the sun. It's not optical light. It is the light of intelligence. And this light of intelligence and the possibilities and probabilities that are emanated from the sun are literally your chakras. So your chakras are your light body. It's not optical light, it's intelligence light, and it's the light that is absolutely in partnership with the sun and the stars. And this and each of your chakras, let's go to a chakra picture here. Each of your chakras represents a living being. Hold on. So every single one of these layers from red through violet represents a living being. Just like I told you about, like your liver is one organ of your body. So your orange chakra is one living being within your chakra system, is a coherent light entity. But it doesn't just exist independently, just like your liver doesn't exist independently, like liver, whatever, kind of running around on two little tiny legs. It's a comical envisionment. That doesn't happen. Your liver is connected to all this other stuff that's a part of who and what you are. Same thing with your orange chakra. That's your emotions. Same thing with your intellect. Same thing with your heart. Same thing with your higher faculties. And same thing with your physicality presence. These are all interconnected, interwoven, and interdependent. So one of the big takeaways from today's teaching is that you have a partnership that goes on not only between all of these chakras or living entities that are light beings, but also with you. You should ostensibly all be, quote unquote, on the same team, all working for the same objective. But I hesitate to say team because it's not a team sport, and ascension is not a team sport, and it's not something that can be gamified or hacked or anything like that. Ascension is an unfoldment, and it is part of your spiritual attainment and the expression of true divine nature of your soul. Got it? So it's not something where it's like, which team is winning? Is it the Mets or the Dodgers or something like that? All right? That's just, I'm very conscious and aware now of the cultural baggage of all the associations of words that I choose. But when I say team, it should be like everybody has the same goal. Everybody works for the same thing. And it also should be reciprocal. So none of this is about any kind of hijacking or exploitation, which is literally what these, whatever entities or poop crapola, the creators of the poop crapola, whatever rides and creates the poop crapola waves, that's based on exploitation. Whatever genetically modified humans away from your superhuman, truthful factory settings into vulnerable and easily manipulated, servants or diminished levels of self, those guys are interested in exploitation, even though I don't even want to call them those guys, because at certain points I don't even think that they're entities. I just think it's impulses. So when there's poop crapola waves, things are being beamed at you and beamed at your mind, it's not necessarily like they're beaming it at you, or a they, or an organism, or a species, or anything like that. I actually think that that is erroneous thought form. I think that the truest truthfulness of thought form is to recognize that these are just impulses. And that has given me a huge amount of freedom, as I've struggled a lot, because I'm very analytical, to be like, who's shooting all this poop crapola at me? Like, who's putting this pollution into my pineal gland? Who is it? Or what is it? Or, they, and all these different things. I think that those personifications largely come from us. I think that it is impersonal, not personified, and it's simply impulses, and that the impulses in many ways are unsustained unless we sustain them and make up a whole story. Like, it comes from this planet, it comes from Alpha Centauri, or it's this, or it's that, or it's any of those things. I think all of those stories are arising from the human biological world, and that they give a type of presence and structure to that which has no presence and structure. All right, and that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the lower astral. The lower astral is really populated by not just residual consciousnesses, things that once were alive and now they're broken or fragmented into pieces and they're busy kind of like falling apart, you know, like zombies kind of like melting away or something like that. But thought forms that never had enough coherence to be able to be alive in the physicality realm. So all of you are alive. Congratulations. You're alive. It's like you're coherent enough to actually be alive and actually have a body. And I'm always telling you that, like, celebrate your body and celebrate being here. Don't be like, no, like this part doesn't look right, or this part isn't shaped right, or this part doesn't function right, or kind of hurts me a little bit. I'm like, I know, your body might not be perfect, but like you're coherent enough to have a body. Do you get it? Like, a lot of these things that are just totally invalid presences, like, they're not even coherent enough to have a body and be alive and be in the experience of physicality. And you're a work in progress, and some of your dormant superhuman abilities have to do with healing, restoration, and regeneration. So please recognize that you might have health deficits at the moment. You might need to be restructured or recover from injuries or diseases or amputations. Please recognize that that's part of the dormancy in your DNA. Huge healing capacities for yourself and others. So don't give up on your body. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to toss this body out the window, because there are structural flaws. You have enormous healing capacitations that are inside of you. And that is also actually a good segue back into the reciprocity between yourself and your coherent light family, yourself and your chakras. You all have the common goal or focus of staying alive and continuing to be conscious eternally, continuing to perpetual motion. That's the way to think of it. Like perpetual motion. You want to keep on going with no friction. So some thought forms and alignments create friction, and they will lead to death, because you will be like, you literally don't have enough energy to keep on going, don't have enough momentum in time to keep on going. But ideally you're in a reciprocal, positive love relationship, and love, it's the love tone. Love tone means an equal amount of giving as is receiving. And so as it relates to you and your chakras, it means that you, biological somatic ego presence, are giving out an equal amount of energy to your chakras as you are receiving from them. And you sustain one another, and that's how you are a perpetual motion machine. Love tone, as it relates to you, chakra system plus biological entity, moving through time, means that you Pac-Man and you eat one moment per moment. Chomp, chomp, chomp. So these moments are being put towards you. You chomp them with your mind, with your true mind, your eye of insight. When you don't have to grasp forward, just kind of open your mouth, and it just comes right in. That's ideally how it should be, and you're aligning with these amazing, positively structured thought forms that sustain you, and you receive one moment per moment. That is the love reciprocity between yourself and time. Time is like, I will give you one moment, and you're like, I will receive one moment. That is exactly the relationship that you're supposed to be in. In contrast with the sense of anxiety. Anxiety means, let me reach 2 moments ahead in time, or maybe 10 moments ahead, or maybe a couple of days ahead. Anxiety says this, what's going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen? Let me reach forward in time, not be focused and centered in the moment now. And then there's depression. Depression is like, I'm clinging to the past, or something is weighing me down from the past. And that is like saying moments from the past are interactive in the moment now. And when you're in love, in that reciprocity state with time, what you're doing is being completely embedded within the moment now. And that is what gives you total freedom and total it's a flow state, non-friction, perpetual motion, movement through time. So level 1, lesson 5 is about mastering the mind. It's about meditation, which is, again, a quaint teaching from 10 years ago, for the millimeter waves and all of the pineal gland pollution, other forms of destruction that have made it very, very hard for you to just meditate your way through life. But in a pristine world, you control your mind. And you control your mind and you meditate and you learn which thoughts you want to align with and which thoughts you want to eat and which thoughts you don't want to align with and you don't want to eat, and you get to make a conscious choice of the banquet of thoughts. No thanks, no fattening thoughts for me. I'm on a health kick, and that is how you meditate and get to spiritual attainment. But very, very challenging for us to do that in this time place. Like, you're like, Aurora, like, what are you doing with those crystals? I'm literally keeping the cheesecake out of my pineal gland. I'm like, get away, get away, get away. Very, very incredibly difficult to maintain one's own genetic structure and thought presence when there's all of these things that are being almost forced into the thought perception and genetic structure of your body and of your energy field. So I'm doing constant clearing work, constant energy boundaries, constant sovereignty work in terms of being able to reclaim my individuated presence from all of these things that are forcibly trying to invade. And so the forcible personal invasion is analogous to the forcible planetary invasion, both in this time place and in concurrent ancient Atlantis. It's deep stuff. So it's beyond just merely being like blithely, just make a better choice. Like, no, like you really have to work very, very hard in order to keep the poop crapola from coming inside of you. So you have these different aspects of self. You have your somatic self that creates a definition that up until this point has been called the lower self, but lower just means like a lower note. Here's a lower note. It's not a bad note, it's just a low note. So you have a lower self. That is your physical presence plus your emotions plus your human daily waking intellect. But none of those things are bad. And then you have your heart, which is the fulcrum or the pivot point, and then you have your higher faculties and your higher self up above there. But I've been teaching this class for 10 years and everybody's recalibrated. So at this point, we just claim the entirety. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. From your physical presence all the way up to your divine connection, you are a holistic presence that is all of this stuff. You're your physicality self, and your physicality self makes up an ego story that says, my name is this, and I live here, and this is my favorite sweater, and this is my dog or my cat, this is my address on my driver's license, and then this is the definition of who I am as a person. But that's not the definition of who you are as a person, because again, you are your chakras, but you are your chakras, they are you after you have gone through an enormous amount of personal refinement and transformation, and you have gotten very fast. You're moving at a different speed than you are moving right now. So you claim the totality, this is what it is, totality of the rainbow and all these levels of being as yourself. That is what it is to be a full spectrum human. And this is also transcending duality, because this was much more of a conversation from 10 years ago, the lower self versus the higher self, and who's going to listen to whom. Like, I'm the ego, and everyone was like, no, get rid of your ego, listen to your higher self. But no, like everybody's got to listen to everybody. You're all on the same team. You got it? So your ego, I joke about this too. I say, my ego wants ice cream. Ice cream being analogy for like fun stuff. Like, I want ice cream. Of course you want ice cream. And your higher self wants you to have ice cream and fun stuff too. But you know what? You're also your higher self, and you know what you really want? Spiritual attainment. Yeah. And you don't want ice cream, which is like sensory hedonistic pleasure of the moment now, at the expense of spiritual attainment. You're like, I actually want to ascend. You actually want to ascend. And you don't want ice cream at the expense of the rest of the world not achieving spiritual attainment. You're like, I really want ascension, and I really want ascension and positive, transformative transcendence for the entirety of all life everywhere, not only on this planet or plane of existence, but across all timelines and parallel dimensions. That's big ice cream. You don't want just a little tiny child scoop of ice cream. You want the entire ice cream factory, all right? That's how much ice cream you really want. And of course, large requests like that, just it's a big doing. It's a lot to be going through. Yes, your earthly, mundane self that is the first person experiencer and is focused on materiality, which is divine, which is positive. We don't make fun of your earthly, mundane, materialistic needs. But you have a meta consciousness that is focused on more than just the sustenance of the physical body. Having a body and moving through time, and has the overarching viewpoint that ties everything together. It's the exalted viewpoint. But that should also never supersede the physicality viewpoint, because a lot of spiritual teachings are like, sit on a mountaintop and eat nothing and transcend your physicality. But you can't do that, because your physicality presence needs to be sustained and needs to be a positive house for the rest of your non-physical, non-tangible aspect of self to be sustained. So you have to have this balance between both things. You have to have a good house that you live in. Physical, somatic, cellular body is safe, comfortable, housed, healthy, and well fed. And you're also, this is key, doing the right activities. Because a lot of people in this world of commodity are forced to sacrifice their time and being on the right timeline in order to achieve the housing, the food, and the health care that they need to support their somatic cellular existence. Hey kid, I'm chomping a cigar, get a job. Hey kid, get a job. I know you want to sit around reading a book, painting a painting all day, get a job. And that's kind of like saying, like, don't do the activities that your higher self and that you know you should actually be doing as you're moving through time. Don't align with those perfect Pac-Man dots of time. Go wildly off your path, because some guy's going to pay you $5. Hey kid, get a job to do some silly thing that's not really the right thing for you to do. So you must sustain your physical body. I'm not an advocate for renunciation, not a critic of those who have renounced. Let me just drink a little bit here, because that might have been right for them in their time, in their life, and in their place. But in this time place, I am not an advocate for being a renunciate, meaning like you don't have very much food or very many possessions or very much anything, and you just kind of live on the bare minimum. I'm actually an advocate for getting all of the ice cream you possibly can, but not at the expense of your spiritual attainment. And then, of course, helping your resources to support you and resources to support other people too in their spiritual attainment. But you know, of course, I'm not advocating for rampant materialism, because the way that you get all the stuff that you need, survivalism and basic red chakra stuff says, work for anyone who will pay you. Do anything, find the most lucrative job and get out there and do it. Get a job, kid. What you really need to do, what I am an advocate for and what I am a template and an example in my own life, is becoming abundant and healthy and sustained in your physical, ego, materialist presence by doing the things that you're actually supposed to be here for, sharing your gifts with the world and serving your community. I'm going to go through that again, because this is big, big, big stuff. So I don't advocate in this generation to, let's say, go apart from society, find a cave, dwell there, live on twigs and berries. Although that might have been right for you in another time place, and those might be beautiful people that did things like that. But here, what I am advocating for is for you to share your gifts with the world in such a way that you are sustained, that you have your physical, materialistic needs taken care of, and you serve your community. So all of us come here with gifts. You're not here by accident. You have very, very important things to do in terms of your natural capacities or your propensities or what you love to do. So the cigar chomper says, hey kid, get a job. Get a job is the shorthand for go do something that you would never do unless someone was actually paying you for it. That's what job is. But what I'm trying to encourage people to do is to do your cosmic job joy. That's when you do what you love and you get paid for doing what you love. And it's totally righteous and good to commodify the things that you love doing. Like if you love making artwork, you love making music, you love serving people or helping people or cooking food for people or whatever it is, find the thing that you love to do and then find an honorable and righteous way to get paid to do that in the world. That's positive. And the reason why I advocate for that is that we, again, big teaching from this, like you don't have a liver just like running around on little liver legs, not connected to the rest of your body. Your body has a holistic presence. We have a holistic dynamic presence as a social group of beings, and we sustain one another. So if there's someone out there, this hair clip is a perfect example. I'm not wearing it right now, but I have this hair clip that's my magic hair clip. It's magic because I envisioned it, and then I saw someone had made the exact thing that I had envisioned. And like, that's amazing. Like, I wanted this thing, I needed this thing, because you can tell, like, I have a lot of hair, and I needed this thing. It's not going to pull on my hair. It's not going to get everything all tangled up. And I'm constantly looking for a hair clip. And then I'm like, this person actually made it, and then they're selling it on the internet, and I press go and I buy it, with my PayPal button or whatever. That's positive. I envisioned it, I desired it, they sensed my desire, they sensed it months ago, created this whole thing, put it up on their website, and then I buy it and I sustain them. That's like positive social dynamics is the best way I can possibly put it. Whatever you love to do, someone out there needs it done. Someone out there needs it done for them. It is a service. That person performed a service for me by imagining, envisioning, and producing and creating that hair clip, that specific one that I needed. And I make all sorts of things. I make paintings that are what you guys need to see. And I make dresses and clothing and other things that are what you guys need to wear. And I'm working on like resin organite projects and stuff like that. And I make music that you guys need to hear, and I make these teachings. And I also do a microgreens business where I produce food that people need to eat. And that is all good stuff, and I do it joyfully and joyously, and is my cosmic job joy. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't just do random things, a kid get a job, do anything for money. And I'm encouraging each one of you to be abundant, find positive sources of money, be guided by your highest self and your collective of family of coherent light, and align with, or generate the timelines that contain the money creating, abundance and resource generating realities and futures that you should be a part of, because we sustain one another is what I'm trying to say. So if I make something and then you buy it, and then I have money to be able to go out and buy stuff at the local butcher or wherever, like, we sustain one another. So if everybody's busy renouncing going up on a mountaintop and not buying, we don't have like this micro economy that we have to make. We have to make a positive economy within the economy, like an epiphyte that is based in our true desires and in our true guidance from higher self as we're being sustained here. So we sustain one another. So I'm very, very big on like sustain your friends and small businesses and things that you agree with and believe in. So whatever, everything from like your food production, like don't shop at giant corporate stores, like shop at the smaller stores that are owned by people that you know and love, and people that you know and love work there. And your clothing, all these things, instead of the giant brands and giant megalomarts and giant corporations that are dead things, we sustain each other. All right, that's not soapbox stuff. It's very, very real stuff. It's just like how you do this, because we do this in community. Your liver doesn't run around on little liver legs. Your liver is connected to a holistic presence known all as you. And our economy is not just an individuated thing. You can't just be like, I'm just one person and I'm an economy of one. You're like, I'm a person and I'm connected to a whole group of other people. And we need to create this dynamic of respecting and sustaining one another and valuing one another's activities and valuing one another's presences here. And that is a step on the journey of what people in this time place are calling manifesting a new earth, or manifesting heaven on earth. So where I come from in my collective, energy flows to excellence, and there's simply no question. Like, if you're anything, like if you're good at playing the guitar, someone's like, get that guy a guitar. He needs a guitar so he can play. Or whatever you like doing. If you want a garden, someone's like, give that person a garden and all of the tools and all of the seeds and compost that they need so that they can do their gardening. It's just an obvious, sane approach, even though a lot of what we do is not materialistic. So I use some very materialistic examples of guitars and gardening stuff, but energy flows to excellence. So it's like, that person's good at this, let them do their thing. Give them the resources they need to do their thing, because that honors the collective and the collective flourishes. That's in a world that has transcended ego competition. And you're not in that world yet, but we're trying to get to that world. So we're on the journey. And as you're getting on the journey to really living in a heavenly reality, because in a heavenly reality, you don't have to commodify stuff. And actually, I would be growing my micro sprouts even if I didn't, if I lived in a heavenly community. I wouldn't necessarily have to say, you know, that each one is $5 and you got to pay me this for that. But here's what I would do. I would still love growing the microgreens that I grow, and love walking around my neighborhood delivering them with my little dog, because we love to visit our neighbors, and then we love to give them this good healthy food. You got it? So we're just not at that point yet where you can simply do what you love, not worry about having to charge, you know, $5 in commodification, and then knowing that you'll have enough money to be able to pay your rent or your mortgage or your gasoline bills or whatever it is that you need. We're on the journey towards getting there, okay? So in transition, and I've talked about this before, reno, not demo, renovation, not total demolition. In the renovation of the economy, first you go through this stage, there's kind of an interim stage wherein you practice doing what you love and getting paid, doing it righteously, serve your community. And that's big. I do a lot with my microgreens because specifically I'm like, what is a thing that my community needs that I can do that is enjoyable to me and nourishes and helps other people? And that is one of the solutions that I came up with, because of course I do a lot of things, but you know, not all of them were sustaining me enough. So that's the whole point. And so you're supposed to be guided by your higher self in doing all these things. You're supposed to get these ideas of like, what should I do with my life? And instead of being like in this unhealthy dynamic as it was 10 years ago, 10 years ago, the unhealthy dynamic was, I'm just the stupid ego. I don't know anything. Higher self, tell me everything. You know, that's not healthy, and that's not good, and that's not the way you should have a relationship dynamic. Like, you can imagine, like, whatever, having a spouse or a partner where you're like, I don't know anything. You make all the decisions. I'm just going to be here. That's not having a relationship, you know, like, that's not very good. So yeah, no, 10 years later, I'm happy to see most humanity has really leveled up, and there's a very, very different dynamic in one's relationship with one's higher self. And you're a full spectrum being. So you're like, yep, I have my ego self, and my ego self wants ice cream, which is personal self-fulfillment. And then I have my higher self, and my higher self wants me to be fulfilled and to be safe and housed, and also to be a part of the collective planetary journey, planetary and beyond, planetary plus journey into an even greater, even more exalted state and level of being. And so you're active participant and equal partners. Your ego self, your physicality, presence, your physical body is an equal participant in achieving longevity and perpetual motion. And that's also very big because in this generation, you don't have to drop your body. You don't have to be like, body, see ya, I'm spirit, I'm getting out of here, and no more eating and pooping for me. Things are different in this generation. So it means your body will metamorphose. You will get faster as you are transforming. You will transform and redefine what it is to eat. So you might not go to a grocery store and use toilet paper anymore, but you will still ingest. You will still require sustenance. And it is an honoring of the physical presence. And also, this isn't part of my notes, but I just have to say it to you. All the time that you've spent having a physical body in time gives you real estate. That doesn't end just because you're not in that moment anymore. So your body of 2:35 p.m. from several weeks ago still exists in 2:35 p.m. of several weeks ago, and your unique soul signature relates to that body as a anchor or an energy opening into that time place. Big, deep stuff. You once lived in a body that moved through time, and it's still there in the abstract, exalted perspective of what time is. It's still there. It doesn't go away. So there's a value to having had your body and having been a physical, dense, materialized person. You have real estate, and it doesn't go away just because you metamorphose and transcend and become light or faster than light or something like that. It actually remains relevant. So you earned it, and it's important. You earned the audition to be here. You earned the audition to sustain yourself and to be relevant as a somatic creature in this world. And the time that you spent in your physical body as a regular food eater was time well spent. And then also, it's not the end of your journey. You will, of course, transcend and go into a different layer of being, which is becoming a coherent light being. But it doesn't mean that your body becomes an irrelevancy. And this is the generation, when I talk about the opportunity, is that in this generation you have the opportunity to make that transcendent leap, but without having to die a physical corporeal death. Things that were not available in previous generations are available in terms of opportunities and apertures now. So just know that. Just know that you have to make your choices based upon what's happening now. So here's some big takeaways. You're facing challenges. The big giant weightlifting bar that's like that had, oh sorry, my thing is beeping because I'm just gonna restart. You have had to do the big giant weightlifting bar. You didn't used to have to do this. That's new. But you also face enormous possibilities in what you can do and accomplish in this time place. So bigger, heavier weights, but also greater opportunities for achievement, including the direct transcendence of physicality structure without the need for a mortality event. And that relates directly to planetary ascension, because this is not part of my notes, but there's a lot of cultural baggage and cultural overlays that are part of what Flying Rainbow Lasagna unlocks and rectifies: the expectation of the necessity of your death and the expectation of the necessity of the end of the world. And I refer to this all the time. Terence McKenna, who is a great thinker and I think really a great person, not a total endorsement of everything that he's ever done, but definitely an amazing person and visionary, gave a great talk one time about your personal eschaton and the planetary eschaton. Personal end of the world and collective end of the world, and that these two things are linked, and they're linked genetically and they're linked consciously, in the sense of you have an inborn implanted expectation. Yep, one day you're going to die. And there's the cultural expectation, one day everything will die. That's what eschaton means: total destruction. So for Christians and Judeo-Christians, Book of Revelation, end of the world. And that's also, Messianic Judaism, end of the world. For the Hindus, it's the Kali Yuga. For the Viking tradition, it's Ragnarok. And for the Hopi, there's, the sense of the multiple different worlds, the ends, purifications, ends, and then beginning of the next cycle. And so those are cultural overlays. And they might have been relevant to other time, place experiences. But once you Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you change the entire future. Again, I save you $5. You're going to get a reading. Someone says you'll have a ham sandwich for lunch. But you don't have to have a ham sandwich for lunch, because as soon as you make one decision, that means the membranes that are your cellular membranes make one calculative, profound decision about whether to turn left or turn right as stop sign, your whole entire future shifts. You are part of a larger calculative presence that is a giant biological supercomputer, and everything changes in quote unquote the software program of what you are experiencing with that one little choice. And then all of a sudden you're having something completely different for lunch. It's summertime, so maybe you're having a salad caprese, like the nice tomato, basil, and mozzarella. Like, that's a completely different future that happened just because you made one change, one decision at a critical cusp. And you're making decisions all the time. You're making decisions about, even postural decisions about, whether you step with your left foot or your right foot, or whether you're leaning on your left elbow or your right elbow, or any kind of things like that. All those are decisions. Think about how many decisions you make in a day. So the big takeaway is time is, and the future is, an ever-shifting, kaleidoscope or mosaic of possibilities. And every single choice that you're making is constantly realigning you and recalculating you with different potential futures. And you want to be making the choices that align you with the futures that have the greatest levels of coherence and longevity. They stick together for the longest amount of time. That's what it is to be a coherent light being. And that's what the partnership is supposed to be between higher self-guidance and you as ego and somatic cellular body. It's supposed to guide you through insight to be able to make those decisions, make those choices, and align with those reality structures that make you keep on being in existence. It's pro-life, like sustaining of life. And then the stuff that's the antithesis is all of the pooties, all of the stuff that either was never alive or was never successfully alive and that is now dead and smeared on some kind of a membrane that is trying to sabotage your life. And instead of making you live longer and be coherent, it's trying to make you die and end and go into a dead end. So that is the real 100-pound weight that all of us are lifting right now. That is how to not listen to those negative thought forms that lead us towards death, including the expectation of planetary death. So these thought forms, negative millimeter waves, they talk to the cells of your body. Don't listen, but they say things like this: you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die horribly, you're gonna get cancer, you're gonna get this disease, that disease, you're gonna get hit by a car, you're gonna die. It's like, no, cells, don't listen. No, cells, here's what's actually gonna happen. You're gonna eat a beautiful salad caprese, you're gonna feel great, go for a walk with your dog, and live a very long, healthy life. All right, so that's my little acting out of how we do this. But here, that's a microcosm of what's happening. Being bathed in a whole entire the frequency poop that tells you about how you're going to grow old, get wrinkled, be genetically fragmented, get horrible genetic diseases, and then eventually die. But don't worry, because you're also being told a larger superstructure story that is from media and culture that says, global warming is happening, the ice caps are melting, the environment is irrevocably degraded, Earth is dying, Earth is going to explode, there's going to be a nuclear war, there's going to be a famine, there's all of these things. Even if you are a secular person and not a Judeo-Christian or a practicing Hindu or any of those things, there are all of these implanted expectations from the media that basically say, abandon hope, the end is nigh. I'm ringing the bell. I'm wearing the sandwich board. The end is nigh. Prepare for the end of the world. And these are incredibly negative stories that, again, your psychology is being bathed in these stories. So I protect myself by not watching the news and not consuming a lot of media. But of course I talk with people, like whatever. I talk with my landlord housemate who tells me like, that's it, we're toast, global warming, we're gonna die. And I want to be like, no, like, wait, we don't have to die, there's a different story, you can listen to a different story. But people expose themselves to these ideas, and then these ideas become generated by your DNA. And that, if I just roll back to what I originally said, this is a quote from my teaching from 10 years ago, harming or disturbing the DNA of organisms is a way to control them. If I can put untruthful information, which is like an oxymoron, into your DNA, and then your DNA does your amazing DNA dance and makes stuff happen, you make that stuff happen. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that is based upon your own generative capacitation as an organism. So your generative capacitation is a responsibility. Just like driving a car is a responsibility. You want to make sure you don't hit any squirrels or bicyclists or other cars or stuff like that. When you have a body and DNA, you want to make sure that you vibrate and oscillate positive reality structures that don't have to do with your own death and definitely don't have to do with the death or degradation of the entire biosphere or ecosystem or planet upon which you live. You must responsibly be thinking about yourself into positive reality structures and also your planet and your community into positive reality structures. That is a big, big, big part of what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. So you want ice cream for yourself, but you really want ice cream and spiritual attainment for everyone. You don't want your world to go kablooey. You don't want a nuclear war or World War III or bioweapon or zombie apocalypse. You don't want zombie apocalypse. You don't want any of these eschatons to happen. The reason why in this Terence McKenna talk that's so profound, eschaton is implanted is because it's the only rational maneuver that people could embrace that would allow for a complete change, a complete novelty. And Terence McKenna also did great work in terms of creating a computer program called Time Wave Zero that algorithmically mapped novelty or the likelihood for something to be unlikely. This is the object of total novelty. So before Flying Rainbow Lasagna was developed and embodied, one of the only ways that people could even envision or conceive of, a thought form, conceive of, give birth to, how do you change the entire world is kablooey. Well, first everything has to go kablooey, and then after that everything has to change, and you'll rebuild, or this will develop, or that will develop. But very, very few options that don't involve kablooey. But Flying Rainbow Lasagna is here now. And that means that there is a new thought that you can conceive of, gestate, and give birth to, a new way that you can envision the future becoming positively transformed on a profound level without having to first go kablooey, then get picked up. Reno, not demo. Renovation, not demolition. So in your body, you don't have to have your body go kablooey. Like, then everything got kapow, and then you didn't exist anymore, and then you got reborn or went into a new expansive level of reality and everything was great. Like, that's great. But what if you could just go into the new expansive level of reality without the having to get destroyed part? That would be amazing, and that is what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is, and that is what is going on in this world right now. And I literally hold the space for, or maintain the possibility structure for that to happen, and I send that out as my genetic contribution, where everybody's mind is like, eschaton, end of the world, gonna go kablooey, and I'm like, wait guys, I got a better idea. Why don't you Flying Rainbow Lasagna? And you don't have to destroy everything, and you can restructure your reality in a better way. And that then becomes a positive option on the banquet platter of thoughts that you are choosing. And of course, I've been here for 20 years doing this, and I had to come 20 years ago because it takes a little bit of time for things to have an impact, to spread like mycelium throughout the psychological, emotional, energetic, and social substrate here. And you don't turn a giant ship in the ocean at a 90-degree angle. It takes time. You turn incrementally. And humanity and the events of this planet have had to incrementally shift over the past 20 years to shift away from the implanted expectation of end of the world and eschaton, and to shift towards a different definition of the possibility of a radical and positive restructuring of both your body, your society, and the ecosystem and everything that is happening here. So I already talked about the things that happen at night when you mostly, in ideal terms, get the energy to heal and rebuild yourself. I didn't speak in my notes about autophagy or autophagy. So energetically, when you are in a restful, non-ego state at night, it allows for you to reconnect to divinity. And that is similarly to what happens when you are in a meditative state. You should be meditating all the time, but we've got these different problems that are ancient problems, and then we've got these different problems that are millimeter problems, making it very difficult to do these things. But basically, when you are divinely connected, that's when you are healed and regenerated. And Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a regenerative dance, because what it does is allows you to jump up and over these genetic blockages to divine connection, and again, reconnect to divinity. So Flying Rainbow Lasagna is the tool. Divinity exists. I didn't invent divinity, but I invented a way for you to connect with divinity in spite of these genetic blockages and frequency blockades that have been really diminishing human potential and the potential of time expression everywhere. So you do the flying rainbow lasagna, and you're like, oh, I can reconnect with divinity, and you can get those re-ups that you need. Rejuvenation of your cells, healing, and energy. So I say that's flying rainbow lasagna is a regenerative dance. And I also say, and it's truthful, that my dance is for everyone, and my dance is for you, no matter what is your level of fitness or ability or mobility. That if people who are paralyzed or have limitations, my dance is for you. And whatever you can move, whatever body part you're able to move, or in whatever way you're able to, express yourself in the physical form, the dance helps you to do more of that. That it helps to bring in more of that divine connection and healing energy that tells a new story to your body about what is possible in the body, that abrogates the necessity of getting rid of the pesky old body and then finally, quote unquote, being free for doing your spiritual attainment. You're like, I don't have to get rid of my body because I can heal and transform my body and do things that I didn't even know were possible while still in the body. And then you can find these levels of freedom even while you are in the body. So I talked a lot already about what mostly puts people out of balance is the human operating system. The hacked intellect, or the level of the ego, your OS, your operating system, that mostly has been the 25-pound weight at the gym of spiritual attainment that you must lift in order to be able to do divine reconnection. But you're not just lifting 25 pounds. Like, yes, you have to lift your ego. Yes, you have to get reconnected on that level. But you've also got technological interference. And I don't reference enough nano wetware because you got millimeter waves out there, but then you've also got nano wetware in here. Everybody's implanted. There's not a way to be here in this time place without being implanted. So I did a whole wonderful group, a detox group, about the different things that I do to get the crapola out of me so that way I can have a cleaner divine connection. And so there are many, many things you can do, all sorts of different wonderful supplements, activities, and purification techniques for getting the nano wetware out of you. And the nano wetware is a combo of both a metallic, tiny particulate self-assemblage that is kind of like an artificial neurology and fascia, and also a pathogen that is kind of like a mycoplasma, or a combination of a bacteria, fungus, viral, biological film, a biofilm that does not have a cell wall. So it's two things, metallic plus bio. So there's a combo of different things you can do, and I'm constantly coming up with new stuff that you can do, because I'm always coming up with new things to go to clear my body. So there are always new things that I'm sharing with people on my list. If you want to be on my list, I don't talk about it here on this platform because it is, I use keywords that would just be problematic in many different ways. So I had a private group talking all about it. But and it might be time to revive that group, or just have a nice a weekend meeting if you want to, and just see where people are, because we last met about 6 months ago. And so yeah, the thing is always trying to come up with new horrors and new ways, fun, of coming inside of you, but then we always come up with new ways of getting that crapola out of you. Big takeaway is, once your pineal gland is clear, and once your divine connection is reconnected, you can clear that crapola out that fast before breakfast, all right? Your pineal gland and your divine connection, or the combo of your brow and your crown chakra, are an amazing aspect of your higher self senses that is more than just your ability to see through time. So you can be like, oh great, I'm going to see the timelines where my body is clear, and then go towards those timelines. Yes, you do that, but also just you have to imagine the presence and the light that emanates from this aspect of your crystalline being inside of you, having the capacity to clear out all of your fascia, cell membranes, DNA, your body, your life, and even your ecosystem and your community. You become empowered when your superpowers come online and you're reconnected to the divine, and you're at factory settings. Like, this is who I always was and who I was always meant to be. First of all, you will love your body, whether you're short or tall, or round or slender, or whatever your body shape is, or whatever your hair texture is. People have it's such a fraught situation. Like, is your hair curly? Is your hair straight? Is your hair wavy? Is your hair this? Is your hair dark? Is your hair light? All those things. You will be so in love with your body when your factory settings come online. You'll be like, my body is a miracle. I'm in profound gratitude for every single thing that makes me uniquely me, including the length of your legs, the shape of your nose, the functionality of your spine, all of these things. You will be so unbelievably happy and grateful to be you in your body, and you will be able to use your crystalline capacitation to completely heal and clear anything that has been done to your body. So once again, reno, not demo, and your capacity for healing and rejuvenation in your body is profound. Your potential is profound, and it's not just for you, because that would also be a type of hell if you were like, great, like my shoulders go down, I can fix me, but what about everybody else? Like, you're gonna walk around feeling great, and everybody else is gonna be like melted, decrepit, like leprosy ridden people. No, actually, you become capacitated to clear out everybody else's cell membranes and clear out all of their pineal glands and get them up to speed, and then they're able to clear themselves and to clear others. So again, this is another example of economy. And economy meaning in a positive sense, or ecology. Things are connected. You're not just in a discrete system involving only you and no one else. You're here in a connected, dynamic system that involves you and many, many other participants. And I'll just speak briefly to this too. There's many, many other participants here, and they're real people with real souls. Because there's a lot of talk that goes on in the world of spiritual attainment about whether people are real, whether they're background people, whether they're NPCs, if you've had the subcutaneous pollution, have you lost your soul? There's a lot of stuff that in some ways is sociopathic and dehumanizing to other people. And sociopathic in the sense of disassociating from the truthful suffering of certain levels of the population who might be viewed as NPCs or invalid characters or not fully present or not fully souled individuals. And I'll say, if someone is here and they have a multicellular body and they're walking around, they've got a soul. But if you are not able to feel their soul, it could be because of the poop crapola technology, millimeter waves plus implanted nano wetware, that might be making it very, very difficult for you to connect effectively and feel other beings and the realness of who they are. So beware of false implantations that are influencing you, not only in the sense of reality structures, expectations of eschatons, but also whether or not you can feel or assess the realness of another organism or person. Because other people are real. Other people are real. I actually think that that is the ongoing devastation that comes from the millimeter wave, the false story that is being told to human experiencers here, that this world is a false world. That I think that literally is the most devastating way that you could invade and suppress a population. What if you had like a spray? We're gonna hose you down, we're gonna spray you down, we're gonna spray you down with a spray that says, the world isn't real. It's just a dream, or whatever, a fiction, or whatever, a television show or something on that level. And then everybody who's been sprayed down, they go through their life and it's like, ran out of toilet paper, oh well, who cares, nothing is real. I ran over a squirrel, oh well, who cares, nothing is real. I hit a bicyclist, oh well, who cares, nothing is real. I was mean to someone, who cares, nothing is real, that person wasn't real. Like, it becomes, that's what I mean, sociopathic disassociation and depersonalization becomes a acceptable excuse for all sorts of unacceptable behaviors, which are largely destructive. They're self-destructive, they're destructive to the soul, they're destructive to the collective dynamic, and they're destructive to the planetary architecture and the sense of moving in a positive direction of ascension. Because the positive direction of ascension is the recognition of unity consciousness, which for some people is so profound and so deeply felt like they can't even take it. Because if you run over a squirrel, you're like, that's me! I just ran over me, and I squashed myself on the road. It can be, and I'm being a little bit lighthearted and facetious, but also you can recognize like where you can go with that when you are really profoundly embedded in the moment now and you're not reaching for the past or reaching for the future. It's a profound experience of like high definition detail and empathy, feeling state, feeling how real everyone and everything around you is. Everything matters. Everything matters. Let's say you didn't even like hit someone in a car accident. Maybe you just cut someone off in traffic. I cut someone off in traffic. Oh no, I feel so bad. You know, I'm being facetious again, but you recognize like you're profoundly connected in these levels of spiritual attainment. The truth of your connectivity can sometimes be too deep to bear. And so sometimes people go into these levels of depersonalization and disassociation, but the millimeter wave exacerbates that and exploits it. It exploits the tendency to depersonalize or to disassociate into really an act of war that then makes humans non-caring or less caring for one another and non-caring of events. Because you kind of go like this, shrug, doesn't really matter, who cares? People are starving, who cares? Homeless encampments, who cares? Plague, who cares? You know, I mean, literally, there's plague in LA. Because there's a lot of homeless encampments and a lot of rats from poor hygiene, and there's literally like plague and typhoid that are on the fleas and the rats in LA. So that's a big burden to bear. Like, people are actually living in a place where there's plague-infested rats running around in the city right over there. And then, so a lot of people, they can't deal with the truthfulness of that profundity. And they'd be like, you know, it's not really real. Who cares? And I've encountered a lot of that, especially in places that are very infested with 5G. The cities that I've lived in that have been places where you really can't get away and hear your own thoughts or feelings or really feel what's real. And so when I was in San Diego, I felt that a lot. Felt a lot of the people around me just being like, who cares? And then when I went to the mountains and I got away for just one weekend, I was like, I care about everything. These injustices, and that's not right, and that's not right, and that's not right. It was full of like energy and fire. And then as I drove back to the city, I'm kind of like descending into that miasma of the millimeter wave again. Then I remember the feeling state kind of coming back over me that was like an amnesiac somnambulance, where it's like, don't think about it. You don't even really remember. Nothing's happening. Nothing's going on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not real. And I was like, no, I'm full of fire. I'm going to change everything. But it was like, it's a stay asleep. Go to sleep. Stay asleep. Forget about everything. And don't care. And that is dangerous stuff. Again, if you wanted to make war on a group of people, that is one way that you would do it. Hose them down with something that makes them not care, not be able to fight back, that diminishes any revolutionary act or active responsiveness really to what is going on here. And that's exactly what you're facing in this time place. So I already got most of these important things about your chakras talking about here, that when one chakra is misaligned, it can misalign the totality of everything that you're experiencing. So if your emotions are destabilized, it destabilizes your thoughts, it destabilizes your somatic physical presence, it also destabilizes your unconditional love and your higher faculties. And also, like, if something gets beamed into your pineal gland, because there's a lot of pineal gland poo-poo garbage going on right now. People have visions that aren't real visions, and falsehoods that are not actually real light, false light. If you put destabilization up here, it destabilizes everything. It destabilizes the heart, the emotions, the intellect, the physicality structure, and the community. So a lot of important stuff. So big takeaways: your organic self and your inorganic or purely light-based or non-tangible presence. It's all you have the common goals of achieving perpetual motion and eternal presence. There is not a power dynamic where one is better than the other, not the lower self better than the other or the higher self better than the other, but these are both aspects of self that are in partnership, that are in reciprocity, and your reciprocity extends to the time field itself and to all these other genuinely alive creatures, other humans who are not NPCs. No one's an NPC. It's like the most narcissistic, harmful way to think about others. Or flies. Like when you're really in the present moment now and a fly lands on you, you're like, it's the most meaningful insect I've ever met in my entire life. This means something. And you can have a whole conversation. You can learn all about what flies are, or gnats, or mosquitoes, or whatever it is. It is just sometimes it's too much responsibility for some people to even be able to bear that experience. So they kind of retreat into this kind of fuzzed out, dumbed down way of being. But ascension is really recognizing that, yeah, flies are amazing, miraculous creatures, even though they're gross and they eat poop. And everything that you're interacting with is an amazing miracle. And life is an amazing miracle. And that when you're in these levels of attainment, you remember that, and that doesn't stop. And so that extends to your ecosystem of all the different life that is here on this planet. And not only here on this planet, you would say, other far-reaching places that are non-local to this planet, but also parallel dimensions and parallel timelines. You're in an ecosystem where all of these organisms matter, all of these thought forms matter. And then there's a great deal of respect for consciousness on its journey, but I must tell you that the impulse, the millimeter wave, and the impulses behind the millimeter wave, I don't want you to validate it as personhood, because that tends to be yourself as a real person projecting who and what you are onto something that is not actually in existence. So we make up a story saying, who's behind this? Someone's making it happen. Or how about like sky poop, chemtrails? Who's making it happen? At this point, I don't think there is a who. I don't think that there is a madman, or even a mad organization, or even a mad species, or a person. Like there's not a personhood there, and there are impulses and there are mechanisms that are happening, but I don't think it's helpful to personify it. So cellular life, walking, talking people, real people, creators of sky poop, millimeter waves, and other forms of harmful amnesia and somnambulance, I don't think that they actually have personhood. Although it's having an impact on our world, don't think it's an entity, is what I'm trying to say. Don't think it's an entity that is alive. So we respect consciousness on its journey. And I say, consciousness, like, I'm rooting for you, like, go towards energy, go towards entropy, like, go to unity consciousness. But, because that's part of the ascension process. But the stuff that isn't real, that doesn't even really exist, that's been like the impediments that we've been facing at the gym of spiritual attainment, that stuff is in a different category. All right, that's big. Okay, so now I'm going to finally, I don't know if you've been saying stuff in the chat, but open the floor to questions, comments, and other things that you might wish to say here in the chat. Okay, Pedro says, hi. Thoughts and emotions. I know I have to squint and scroll. I apologize. I know I make the silliest faces here. Pedro says, and thank you for being here. Thoughts and emotions affect DNA like the Masaru Emoto experiments with water. Okay, yes. So, yes and more. So Dr. Emoto is not on Earth anymore. He's a wonderful Japanese researcher that did work with, speaking into water and speaking into other objects, but mostly speaking into water, food objects, and then freezing the water and looking at the changes in the crystalline structure of the frozen water. If you speak loving, positive things into the water, then you will get the most beautiful snowflakes. You will get the most beautiful, perfect geometric designs. And if you speak hatred and other things into the water, then you get these really kind of blobs and misshapen things. And this also works with a bowl of rice. If you have 2 bowls of rice or jars of rice, and one of them you speak to and you say loving thoughts to it, and the other one you say, I hate you, and F you, and your poop, and things like that, the one that you speak hatefully to, it rots much faster than the one that you speak lovingly to. So on that basic sense, yes, your thoughts and your emotions are vibration, and vibration directly affects DNA and DNA's expression of divine architecture and what it is doing on a level of polygons and crystalline structure. Cheeky, the master teacher, has arrived. Let's see if you can see her down here. Can we see Cheeky? She's down here, right down here. Cheeky came in. We'll have to do something fun for Cheeky soon. She can tell. She's like, I hope we're going to do something fun soon. She's like, she's got an inner clock. But so much more. The thoughts and emotions that affect your DNA behavior are affecting it on more than just a physiomechanical level, like the shape of what it's doing. They're affecting its behavior. So when you are speaking loving thoughts to your own body and to animals or to your environment, you are affecting the DNA behavior that brings those organisms to positive timelines, to greater and better reality structures. So it's even beyond the sense of just creating perfect snowflakes. It is really the sense of creating positive time structures. And when you are loving and nourishing in your thoughts and your speech patterns towards other organisms, you are literally in an ecosystem of consciousness, helping them to be able to go onto positive ascension timelines. And of course, when you think or speak negatively or harmfully towards or about something, the opposite also happens, that you are in many ways diminishing them, diminishing your expectations of them, painting a bleak future for them. So think about this, like if you sit in front of the TV and you're kind of being hypnotized by all of these stories that come from the news, and the news is literally cursing you and saying things like, your planet will die, you will have no economy, I'm being facetious here of course, and you're going to lose everything, and you will live in a cardboard box, and then you will eat each other in cannibalism. Like, there's a lot of negative things that the television says and media says to the human experiencer, that literally creates and generates those possibilities for the future that are not positive possibilities at all. And you don't want to be on those timelines. It creates those timelines. So your DNA is connected to time. When you speak positively and lovingly, you connect with and create positive timelines, even beyond creating perfect snowflakes. Charlie B says, we all want big ice cream on Aurora's birthday. I love that so much. I want to give you all big ice cream. Big factory of ice cream, big giant ice cream cake. It's the most amazing, positive, it's healthy ice cream also. You don't have to worry. You're not going to get fat. You're not going to get overloaded with sugar. It's the most positive, healthy ice cream it's possible to have. And there's an endless supply of it. You're holding up something beautiful. Oh, wait, let me make this bigger so that I can see. Happy birthday! Thank you. Oh, you guys are making this the best birthday. Thank you so much. Hugs to you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Oh my goodness. That is beautiful. Wait, change my settings again. Wait, here we go. Oh, now I have to change the setting to see the chat. Hold on a second. Thank you, you guys. I'm a Leo, and I thrive on birthday wishes, so thank you for that. Yeah, but I'm definitely here in order to help everybody to, envisioning, knowing about ice cream, knowing about that level of spiritual attainment, personal fulfillment, and positive reality structure. That's a big part of it, because you've had enough voices that tell you things that are like, you're going to grow old and decrepit and die. You're all going to get, you're not going to get cancer, but these quote unquote say, you'll get cancer, everyone will die horribly, your world will end. There's all of those stories, all of those narratives and voices here are very loud. You have very, very few narratives that tell you, no, there's a giant list of ice cream flavors over here that are the most amazing and fulfilling ice cream flavors. None of them are like Revelations flavored. That's like whatever, like the 4 Horses of Darkness. None of them taste like the 4 Horses of Darkness. These are all like fun and fulfilling flavors. And that's really, really big stuff. You have to be informed. In order to actually be in freedom, you truly have to be informed and know what's on the menu for life. And it's been a great diminishment of your capacity and your free will, simply not to know what's on the menu and what is possible. Adam says, have to hop off. As always, thank you for the FRL. You're so welcome, and thank you for tuning in, Adam. I know you have a busy work schedule, work life too. And Charlie B says, Aurora, again, makes perfect sense. Thank you for that. That we might be projecting our collective traumas to re-injure ourselves. This is not, quote unquote, a person or personhood re-injuring you. This is an unhealed trauma that we can face and transcend. For example, it is well established that our society and technologies are ultimately and merely reflections of self. Beautiful point, and so well said, and so relevant. I think that might be one of the best approaches to how to analyze and comprehend what we're even experiencing in the gym of spiritual attainment. You're like, why is this thing so heavy? Why am I doing, what is this thing? What is so hard to do here? And the answer, as Charlie B is talking about, is I'm lifting unhealed collective trauma. This stuff is really heavy. This stuff is really heavy. This stuff is really heavy stuff. Because guess what? I acknowledge and I recognize bad stuff happened to you or is concurrently happening to you. Valid either way. Either it's a planetary invasion that happened a long time ago and caused your genetic mutilation, or it's an imminent, ongoing genetic mutilation. It's highly traumatic and it has not been resolved. And when there are things that are unhealed traumas that are not resolved, it makes it very, very difficult to be centered in the present moment now and to move forward into positive future possibilities. But I also will tell you that if you have an unhealed trauma, it does not mean that you will simply continue to manifest the same negative thing. I use scary clowns as an example. If your trauma is Ringling Brothers Circus and you were 3 years old and the scary clown scared you, and then you're constantly afraid of scary clowns, in the process of ascension, you will not manifest scary clowns everywhere. What you will manifest is the circumstances for the healing of your fear of the scary clowns. So what happened in ancient Atlantis? Here's your scary clowns. Amnesia, mind control, behavioral control, disconnection from the divine, genetic degradation, death, loss of freedom, loss of willpower, something else subsuming your willpower. Those same themes are running in our present experience level. And that present level of experience is not merely a repetition or negative time loop of the same old crapola that you've experienced before. This is the moment or the opportunity for the healing and the rectification to happen. So whatever, if you're in a dream, you've always been like, I'm running from scary clowns, I'm running from scary clowns. But one night you have the dream where you stop and you're like, face those scary clowns, and you're like, I'm not going to run away from you anymore. Like, you get away from me, or you do whatever is the empowerment thing, and then you never have that dream again because you've transcended it. This is that dream, not a dream, but this is that level of reality, and this is that experience where you've got technology, you've got nano wetware and millimeter waves and other things that are trying to destroy your divine connection, disempower you, blind you, distort you, and prevent you from being free and expressing your own willpower. Same themes that happened to you in the past. But what you get to do in this moment is have that experience of facing the thing that hurt you so badly or is imminently going to hurt you so badly, and fighting it effectively and transcending it. And Charlie B makes an excellent point where he says that it's well established that our society and technologies are ultimately and merely reflections of self. Yes, yes, yes. All of the technology that you have here and all the technology that you had in ancient Atlantis, these were externalizations of your own inner tendencies. And so, for example, like what you have with YouTube, YouTube is the expression of the collective unconscious memories. So if there's something that you remember, like a song from Sesame Street, that's kind of like in your memories, and you want to share it with someone in this non-telepathic and technological world, you're like, I'm sure there is a clip of that on YouTube. Let's search and look for it. YouTube or the computer becomes the scrying mirror. That is the externalized expression of all that actually is inside of you. The truth is, all of us have photographic memories. All of us remember everything, including that silly song from Sesame Street or whatever it is that you want to share with someone else. And in a telepathic world, you wouldn't require the intermediary of the computer and sending someone a link or whatever, a funny meme to remind them of that thing. You would do it mind to mind. So that's just one example. Like, literally, computers are externalized brains. Computers are externalized memories. Where's my hard drive? Hard drive, externalized memory. Wait, this is good. These are all my songs. Not all of them, some of my songs. They're in here. Guess what? They're actually up here. I don't really need this. When we ascend, what you will really realize is, I don't really need this. I actually remember and contain every single one of my songs. I don't need to have an external hard drive to remind me of them. And then I laboriously scroll through, I make my squinty scrolly face, find the file I'm looking for, click on it, and then it plays. I actually have all of those songs in my mind, and I can play them at any moment. And it comes with me no matter where I go across all time. And we can do this with all the technology that we have. Like, I can tell you, okay, cell phone. Cell phone is your pineal gland and your telepathy and your capacity to do these communications. 3D printer, that's literally your pineal gland and your observership and the ovens in front of your eyes and your capacity to create reality in conjunction with God, the divine field of potentials. All of these technologies that are in existence here are externalizations of what you have inside of you. So we have these technologies, some of which are earthly, some of which are non-earthly or extra-dimensional, that are here, that are in many ways not helping the ascension process, and they are obstacles to ascension. They are preventions. Things that are making you forget or slowing you down or imperiling the success of the mission, or preventing connection between one another. And so in looking at that, you can say that these impulses and negative thought structures and negative reality structures at the root sense emanate at some point from unhealed trauma, from human experience and unhealed trauma. I mean, when we talk about ancient Atlantis and the things that happened there, what you had was a very peaceful and highly evolved psychic community that got invaded by a group of consciousness invaders and genetic invaders that were not peaceful and were not wise or refined in any way, and are highly pathogenic and barbaric. And pathogenic is different than violent, because I've been sending out a lot of DNA telepathy on this. The need to fight back and to defend DNA is very sacred, and violence can be sacred and appropriate. So I really, really, really want you to know that there has been a prevention from accessing sacred or appropriate violence in terms of defending yourself, defending the time field, and defending DNA. So basically you had a planet full of very, very highly adept beings that are busy being peaceful, and then something came along that was pathogenic, that's like not only not peaceful, but not observing of boundaries. And that is a big a theme, an ongoing theme throughout the galaxy. Non-observation, non-respect, disrespect of boundaries. So any type of violation, like a rape or an invasion or a war, what it really boils down to is disrespect of boundaries. And in order to have successful development of life, biological life, culture, and other forms of orderliness in the cosmos, you must preserve boundaries. Boundaries are cell walls. What do the millimeter waves do? They assault cell walls. They try to vibrate your nuclei and get through your nuclear membranes when they're not supposed to. They try to come in, even DNA. Stuff trying to come inside of DNA that's not supposed to be there. Genetic splicing, genetic mutilation, genetic pollution. That's putting stories into the reality generation factory that aren't supposed to be there. So the reality generation factory is supposed to be like full of good stuff, and then it pumps out good stuff. And then what happens if you inject some bad stuff into the reality generation factory? Oh no, now we're going to be pumping out bad stuff. But again, what happens instead is, because it's such an amazingly well-designed cosmic infrastructure, it's not like, oh no, this got polluted, just throw everything out the window because now bad stuff's been injected into the reality generation mechanism and now we're all just hopelessly effed. No. What happens is there's a protective purification mechanism that is within DNA that actually says, these stories don't belong here. So please know this in your own body, in your own life, and in the time field in general, that DNA is able to make this self-assessment and to assess reality structures and to sense, like, this stuff doesn't belong here. These stories don't belong here. Get them out. Get them out of here. And you look to the future and you're like, okay, but that part doesn't belong there. Get it out. There is a protective, purifying, and self-protective mechanism that DNA has that was largely dormant. And it was made dormant through some of these cultural assertions about violence versus non-violence versus the appropriateness of whether you're supposed to act or not act, spiritual renunciation, what it is to be love, what it is to be in acceptance, and all sorts of nonsense and garbage and crapola. Sorry to put it in such stark terms, but I'm like, no. If there's something, your DNA, it's very, very clear. Wait. That sentence was fragmented. Let me say it properly. From the exalted viewpoint of being in your DNA, it's very clear. Here's the story the way it's supposed to go. This stuff is not supposed to be there. And there's not a question about the righteousness of whether you should act or whether you should accept it or whether it should be there or you should make up stories about it and allow it to go through and allow it to come to its end and blah, blah. No, you get that crapola out of there. It's not supposed to be there. That is the exalted state. That is the level of pure abstraction. 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 does not equal 3. Get that bad math out of there. There's the level of anthropocentrism, cultural paradigms, and a lot of religious stuff that tells you, well, are you allowed to fight back? Are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed to do that? You know, it's kind of like are you allowed to, start a fire on the Sabbath? Are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed, like, all of those things? And that is part of a genetic implantation. Not only the tendency to worship an external deity, but the tendency to ask for permission. Like, am I allowed to do this? Will I go to heaven if I do this? Will I get rewarded by the God of this particular religion if I do this? Is it acceptable for me to do this? Is it acceptable for me to do this? I mean, when you really look at it from my cultural outsider's viewpoint, like, is it acceptable to build a funeral pyre and kill an animal in honor of a god on this day as opposed to on this day? Like, technically it's never acceptable to kill an innocent animal just in order to make a burnt sacrifice, supposedly to honor a god. You understand where I'm coming from? Like, that's that level. That's the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt do this, thou shalt never do this. That God that is honored by the 10 Commandments that everybody is worried about pleasing, that is the God that's like, yep, and I want you to build a temple and burn a lot of animals. That, you can tell by my face, I'm like, that is not a good way to honor the divine presence. You got it? So there's a lot of distortions that have been placed into the human DNA about asking for permission, what it takes to be a good person, what it takes to be accepted and celebrated, and what it is to be empowered and what you do and what you don't do. So when you're at the exalted level and you're able to just simply see 1 + 1 = 2, this stuff is in your DNA. If this stuff is in your DNA, get it out of there. It's not supposed to be there. And please don't ask for permission. Please don't ask for permission or say, Mommy, Daddy, God, am I allowed to do this thing? Please do it and know that you're supposed to do it because it is a protection of DNA itself, which is related to time architecture. And you must, at a certain point, this is galactic citizenship and maturity, you must say, I'm in time and I'm a participant in time and I protect time, and this is a false story that's not supposed to be here in time. I change it. I change it. Don't ask for permission, and also don't expect someone else to do it. Be like, where are the cops? Where are those time changing things cops? Or like, somebody call Doctor Who or something like that. Like, no, you do it. Because it's incredibly, incredibly important that you do it in yourself. And then the other question is, well, can I do it in others? Be like, okay, I'll protect my own time field and I'll protect my own DNA, but not that guy. That guy can smoke the crack rock or get his injections or whatever he wants to do. But no, the truth is you must protect others. You must protect others who do not have the capacity or maturity or they haven't built the muscles to be able to protect themselves. And also you must protect them because all of your lives are connected. And when one is perturbed, the entirety of the collective becomes wildly perturbed and goes out of control. And that's what you've been imperiled by in this world. People in my class and that I'm directly connected to, you're amazing, and I hug you and I love you, and you're doing amazing in your spiritual attainment. But we recognize that there are many other people that are in this world that are gyrating wildly out of control. They have a tendency to destabilize us. We're like 1 + 1 = 2 and we're going in the right direction. We're making positive futures. They're like, no, global warming, the world is going to end. Everybody's going to, whatever, live in a bunker. Any of these negative paradigms, end of the world paradigms that those guys are still indulging in. And they are gyrating wildly out of control, and there's really not a way to say, great, you just destabilized the world, I'll be over here being stable. Like these, at a certain point, these two worlds don't match. And it's totally appropriate for you to say, like, you don't ask for mom, dad, or God's permission. Stabilize the world, please. So thank you very much. Excellent comment, Charlie B. And Joyce says, thank you in assisting me raise my vibration. I enjoy your teaching. So very welcome, Joyce. Thank you for being in my class. And thank you for the personal connection, too. Really appreciate you. Want to open the floor to any other questions or comments. And then if we're all set, then Chiki's been very patient. And she's kind of sitting over there in the corner. She's sitting like this. She's like, I'm ready. Soon there will be a WALK, but we're probably going to have to drive someplace where it's kind of shady and not too hot and sunny. But just want to make sure that I've gotten through everything that's important. And as always, I encourage people in this class to watch the original whiteboards. They're so worth it and good. I never mean to be diminishing my own work as I make contrasts with what I did 10 years ago to what is relevant now. It's still relevant. The me of that time and the perspective of what I shared at that time remains relevant. But that's like, like the cooking directions on the back of a box. Like there are regular directions, then there are high altitude directions, like you will have to add more water and boil at a different temperature. There's regular directions for spiritual attainment. And then there's what is going on right now. Like, please recognize I'm giving you the best possible recipe directions that I can in terms of your spiritual attainment, because we are in highly unusual circumstances, and the stuff that worked or was appropriate 10 years ago is very, very different now. But there is still a path. Don't ever be despondent. Be hugely positive and know that your success and your attainment is inevitable. And also you have an enormous amount of support from the sun, the stars, and your coherent light family in terms of your chakra system and just pure intelligence. And also you are capacitated. You are hugely capacitated to make these changes on your own. Trish says, because you are beyond time. I am definitely beyond time. I mean, that is what my Aurora Collective is, and that is the true nature of my being. I exist outside of time, space, reality, and then I also exist here in this reality where I do things like go to the grocery store and, put gas in my car and do all of those things. And I do those things in solidarity so that I can be a template, just like I tell you about sacred economy and microgreens, finding ways to transcend the limitations that were put through genetic mutilation into these bodies. It's just too easy to say, just do it. It's a lot more appropriate to say, I will show you how to do it. So that's what I'm here doing. Christina, thank you for being here. Says, happy birthday, Aurora. And here you are gifting us on your birthday. Thank you so much as always. You're so welcome. I am so pleased to be doing this. This is literally my job joy. And also for those of you who have, witnessed me on my journey over the past 2 years, you know that they threw a lot of poop crapola in my way, and definitely many obstacles, and tried to eradicate me and prevent me from being able to share my gifts and speak like this and be free and share my information with the world. So it is a total triumph to be like, yup, on my birthday, the best gift possible, I'm going to be sharing information with other people and also working on art and music projects, basically pretty much everything that makes me a huge cosmic troublemaker in the cosmos and I keep on preventing the end of the world, and everyone is, capacitated, and you're not mindless zombies. Like, I'm a huge troublemaker. So, yeah, that's like my best thing that I can do. And Cheeky and I, like I said, we will go out and we will go for a WALK and the PARK, and that's also one of my favorite things to do with her. Pedro says, love the lasagna. As always, thank you, Pedro. Thank you for being here and for being a long-term student. And Trish says that is why your info rather remains relevant. Absolutely. And Charlie B says, yay, cosmic troublemaker Aurora. I know, that's me, and I will wear that badge quite proudly as I'm in this existence. But I also want you to know, so like I've developed a little bit of an identity as like I'm always, like fighting against this poop crapola, and I'm a cosmic cleaning crew, and I'm doing all this stuff. But there will come a time when this is what I'll just end on, when all of this stuff is cleaned up. Because really my true basic nature is simply to emanate these beautiful, divinely intelligent waves of art and music and uplift. So, when I'm an impulse on the level of the stars and I go around from place to place, a lot of what I do with my collective is setting things right and fixing things up. But if everything is fixed up, it doesn't mean like, oh, well, Aurora doesn't have a reason for being anymore. No, actually this moving around and fixing stuff up has never really been the primacy of my motivation for being. It's been more like, something, sometimes here in my art studio, my place gets to be a mess, where I was just working on all sorts of projects. I have like wax crumbles from a carving, empty coffee cups, there's my sweater, dog bones, like the dishes from last night's dinner, all these things that need to be cleaned up. I need to clean up before I can be truly creative. And that is what is happening in the cosmos right now. So my true identity is not just a cosmic police officer or cleaning lady. I have to do these things in terms of genetics to clean stuff up so that I can finally do these wonderful emanations and creative experiences in freedom. Cheeky's telling me I gotta wrap it up. So yeah, there will come a time when everything is cleaned up, not endless cleaning, and then you get to do the real fun stuff. So please remain steadfast. Okay, you hear my boss is really talking to me. She's like, come on, you really need to go now. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for celebrating my birthday with me. I absolutely love it and thrive on it. And profound love and appreciation to everyone who's in my class. I genuinely love and appreciate you, and people on YouTube and people who catch my podcasts as well. Thank you for being on board. Thank you very much.